What's up, guys? I'm Rob, and this is
Katie Rose, and we are
The Wild DeChellies. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Tonight is our first date night series that we've started up, where we're going to hopefully show you guys how to do a little bit of a date night in the house while the kids are asleep. So you don't have to rely on the babysitter. You don't have to rely on family members to come and look after the kids. But you still get to enjoy life a little bit. It's
true. And I mean, if you followed my blog for a long time, you know that we really love cooking. My mom has always entertained and let us help her cook. We even go every single Sunday for Sunday night supper still. And if there's a birthday or a holiday, it's at my mom's house, and she just literally is one of the best cooks ever.
She's a good cook.
So I learned from her, and I've been in the kitchen with her my entire life, and then with Rob's background, it just really matched. What's your background, Rob?
I had about 10 plus years experience in a kitchen. Professionally, but before all of that happened, the restaurant business is kind of in my blood. My grandfather ran his own restaurant way back in the day. He was an executive chef just after the war in Montreal. He then passed the restaurant along to my parents. So I guess you could say I come by it a bit honestly, but from a professional side of things, it was just too crazy. If there are any professional cooks watching this or anybody in the restaurant industry, I think both Katie and I can speak to the fact that it's crazy and a really difficult environment.
Especially when you have kids.
Yeah,
like
it's hard to be a parent in that world, but that doesn't mean I still don't absolutely love to enjoy cooking, entertaining, creating good things for Katie and I to enjoy.
And to share to you guys.
Yes, and to share with you guys. But also, I really enjoy matching them up with wine in general. I mean, Katie and I were not sommeliers.
No.
Nor are we going to try to get into that level of wine pairing or tasting notes. But what we will try to do is give you guys some suggestions for food and wine that hopefully you guys will enjoy.
Just from a love of food
and
knowledge of wine a little bit. Anyways.
Yeah.
So there you go. So what's on the menu tonight?
So for tonight,
I had to leave him in charge of kind of everything. I just go with the flow.
For tonight, it's Katie and I are trying to be as paleo as possible,
which is really hard.
It's pretty tricky, but this is kind of a bit of a go-to for the two of us to enjoy. It's salad component, it's vegetable component, it's meat component. I mean, there are a bit of some paleo don'ts with this recipe. I mean, we're going to use goat cheese.
But if you're keto, is that how you say it?
Keto. Let us know.
Whatever. It actually is, cheese fits into it, which is similar to paleo because of the low carb aspect of it, but they do allow dairy. So.
I think I really don't like putting a label on how I eat. If it's how I need to motivate myself and keep myself on track.
And look for recipes.
That's fine. I think Katie and I both are happier mind and body when we have a reduced carb diet.
I think that's also because we have a lot of food allergies.
Yeah, carbs tend to affect us in a really bad way.
Or any vegetable or anything that's high in starch that turns into carb in our body. So
I know Katie's father would hate this as he's a potato farmer, but potatoes...
We don't eat potatoes.
Really, they mess around with my belly.
Sweet potatoes, on the other hand, we love to do, and in future episodes you're going to see how we like to prepare them. There's going to be many different ways, but for now we're doing something that doesn't really have any form of starch or carb in it. So... say now, I guess, what we are cooking.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do a grilled steak, and how I'm gonna grill things, it's in a cast iron frying pan. I find when we don't barbecue, which we do quite a bit, cooking a steak in a cast iron frying pan is
second best.
Yeah, pretty much the next best alternative. There's just a way that the cast iron cooks the meat. I cook it in butter. You'll see kind of the process there. But the heat that you get out of a pan, like a cast iron pan, it gives that meat a nice crust to it. It gives it good flavor. It allows you to almost take things to the point of burning, but not burnt, more roasted on that side. Anyway, so we're gonna do some steak. And then we're just going to whip up a really simple arugula beet salad.
Which is my favorite.
Yeah, with a little bit of goat cheese. That's the cheat, I guess. And then I'm going to make a homemade dressing. And we also have in the fridge here, I took the time earlier today to get some carrots ready to roast those. So a big takeaway from working in the restaurant industry was prep work. Prep work is going to be the make or break of your meal, of your entertaining. It's really going to help you out in the long run. So I took the liberty of julienning our carrots, tossing them in an olive oil, salt, pepper, and thyme. I am then going to add honey to them once they're through the roasting process. And I also took the liberty of pre-cooking the beets off, skins on, and I'm going to peel some of those up here in a second.
Now, a lot of your grocery stores probably have the pre-cooked, pre-peeled beets that come in the package. We would probably use those in this instance. But because we live in the country, our grocery store doesn't carry those. So we ended up having to just get regular beets and do that. And when he says prep work, I feel like as parents, prep work can easily be done when the kids are at school so that you can, as soon as the kids are asleep, get your date night dinner cooked and then be able to sit down and enjoy the night together.
Or if you don't have the luxury of being home while the kids are at school, and you're not getting home until, say, around 5 or 6 o'clock at night. When the kids are there, doing their evening thing, it's a great opportunity to just jump in, get a few things prepped and out of the way before you move into cooking the meals.
Especially when you're cooking their food, it's easy to do while you're in the kitchen when you're cooking for them.
Exactly.
So, yeah, easy peasy.
Okay, so for our carrots, what I'm doing now is I'm just preheating the oven to 425, so it gets it nice and hot for a good roast. With these carrots, you want to cut them a little bit thin, so it makes for a bit of a quicker roast. While I'm doing that, and while we're waiting for the oven to preheat,
I'm going to peel the beets, and he's going to pour us a glass of wine, because I think we both need one.
Yeah, it's been one of those days.
And he's going to tell us about why he chose the wine, because he chose the wine tonight.
Okay, so first thing my head went to, where I'm working with red meat. I wanted to have a red to match that. Something I tend to do when I go to our local liquor store is I tend to gravitate to the rare finds table. And I mean, rare finds, you're probably thinking, oh, it's all expensive wines. It can be mid-range wines to reasonably priced wines to just, the company's running out of stock for that vinting. So they've decided to list it and kind of blow it out the door. Anyway, this wine in particular, I do focus on tasting notes a lot. Wines that Katie and I really enjoy tend to be more dark fruits, spicy, sweet, so a bit of jammy. We're really big into American reds. but we
One
also
place we really want to go, actually.
we'd love to go and tour California at one point. But another wine that we really like that we find hits these notes, it's Pinot Noir. So this is a Pinot Noir called Altaland. It's from Argentina. And funny story about Argentinian reds. I used to be addicted. Well, I don't want to say addicted in
But your go-to wine.
liquor. But my go-to wine was always out of Mendoza area, Malbec, spicy, dirty, tastes like the earth kind
Tastes
of.
like tobacco. It actually like sucks the spit right off your tongue
Really,
type of wine.
really dry wine.
Which I'm obviously not a fan of.
And I kind of got bored of it, so I decided to branch out and start trying different wines from different areas of the world. Really started to expand my palate for wines in general. Really started to explore white wines a lot more, which I really enjoy now that I've developed a taste for them. Long story short, I found this Pinot Noir out of Argentina. The tasting notes were cherry, dark fruit, and really herbaceous. So I thought that would go well with the thyme that I'm going to be using on our roasted thyme carrots. Also, the dressing is going to have a bit of thyme in it as well. So I thought that those would complement each other really well. So all that being said, it's time to have a taste. Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but as soon as the kids go to sleep, the first thing Rob and I do is we stare at each other and we're like, wine? It's one of those things as a parent. And it's really funny because I don't know if you guys have seen, at Christmas time, we actually worked with our local liquor store here in Nova Scotia, the NSLC. And when they were working on that deal for us, they were like, well, they're parents. They're not the demographic that we're looking for. And we're like, are you kidding me?
I think parents are probably the biggest demographic when it comes to wine.
Well, especially wine. Like, I remember when I was in my 20s before we had kids. I mean, I had Aubrey when I was 20. We got pregnant when I was 25, and I had him when I was 26. So I was still pretty young. But
our oven's ready, so I'm just going to pop those carrots in.
But yeah, we drank wine to not taste it, but to enjoy it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely. Now we've kind of moved away from that mindset for when we want to enjoy wine, and we're more of the mindset of drinking it to taste it, to enjoy it, to learn about it, and to pair it with really good food.
Exactly.
So I just put those carrots in. You want to probably give them about 15 minutes before checking on them, stirring them around. At some point, I'm going to add honey to them. You don't want to add the honey too soon, because I find in the past when I've done it and added it too soon, the honey tends to burn a little bit, or just kind of adds too much of a sweet flavor throughout the carrot. You want to have it a nice, well, balance of sweet and herbs with the thyme and stuff like that. So Katie has the beets all lovely peeled and cut up for our salads. I mean, there's quite a bit of beets here, so we probably won't use all of them.
It's always good though when you have extra vegetables. I find as busy parents to cook all of it and then have it already prepared in your fridge, because then you're more likely to actually eat it than to only cook some of it and then have it still.
Well, big thing that Katie and I are focused on, where we are fortunate enough to work from home, we tend to think about what our next day of meals is going to look like the day before. So we do cook extra. and then we tend to utilize those leftovers for our lunch the following day. We do work from home, but I think our biggest...
This is really good, by the way.
It is a nice one, yeah. I think our biggest thing that we don't focus on is nutrition probably throughout the day. So like Katie said, when it's already packaged up in the fridge, ready to go, and you can just utilize it, you're more likely to kind of stay on track, I think.
Well, and I think it also like stops us from wasting it and it going rotten, because if you have already prepared it once, especially for something like beets, like look at my hands, and you know, it takes about an hour to boil beets, and then you have to peel them and cut them. So you end up doing it once that week, and then the following week the beets are gone and they're rotten, and you can't really eat them anymore. So to prepare them once throughout the week, or like even chicken, for instance, we buy our chicken from Costco in bulk, and Rob will he will defrost, you know, 4 or 5 breasts when we only really need to cook 2 chicken breasts. But then we have cooked chicken in the fridge to feed the kids for the following night, or to throw it with some mayo for sandwiches when we're at home.
Yeah.
And actually, that brings me to a question someone asked before we came on here. They wanted to know how it is to work with a significant other.
Yeah. Well, the question's going to come right back at you. It can be interesting. It definitely has its own dynamic. You'll learn who the person is when you're around them all the time. You learn a different level of patience. But I'm not saying this in a negative way at all. I'm gonna be honest. Katie and I are the furthest thing from perfect.
Oh my God, we fight like...
Yeah, we fight, we argue, we don't agree with each other all the time. You know, even setting this whole thing up to do this tonight.
I actually should have had like a camera somewhere videotaping us, because I'm like, fine, I'm leaving. Because like, you know, we both have different views of many different things when it comes to like photos that we need to post for a campaign, or even just, you know, videos like this, or how we want to raise the kids. Like, our main goals are all the same, and I think working together is the same as parenting together, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like you either mesh or you don't.
Well, you got to look at your business as like another child, basically. I mean, or look at your family like as a business. Like you're the, you know, Katie and I are the managers of our family, just as we are the managers of our business.
There's going to be contract renegotiations here and there, right? Where you have to be like, okay, I didn't like that decision that you made, either when it's like the business or parenting. And okay, well, you know, I didn't like it. Let's reevaluate the situation and meet halfway somewhere.
You learn to grow together. You enjoy the process sometimes. Sometimes, you know, the process can be tricky. But going back to what Katie said, 2 ideas sometimes don't work together. But sometimes having 2 heads, like the saying goes, it's better than one. So there could be a way that I'm looking at something and I'm not able to figure it out. Like I'm doing an edit on a shoot, and I just can't hit that mark right. And then Katie comes in and suggests I do something a different way, and it turns out, you know, and vice versa for
with my business. I feel
business.
like I run everything by him when it comes to the blog. Like if a company reaches out, I run it by him. I'm like, you know, and he can usually, I think you can sense it, really.
Yeah. From
day one, if I am like into this collaboration or not. And then we can also, if I kind of am and he kind of is, oh, that's a weird sound for here. I don't know if you guys can hear that on the camera. It's an ambulance. But yeah, we really like, we judge everything to each other. I don't know how to word that.
Yeah, we run everything by each other. We critique each other.
critique to maybe even like a fault.
Yeah. Which I think can cause, not problems, but...
I think the biggest thing when you're working with someone, so if you guys...
When you critique the person you love, it creates a different kind of dynamic.
Yeah, but you have to be open to that. And
Yeah.
I feel like...
Yeah. I don't think my wording's coming out right.
Well, I just think like when you work with someone who you love, I don't even know where I'm going now with this. Like my whole train of thought has just kind of gone.
Anyway, so what I'm doing here is I just juiced 2 lemons. What I'm doing is I'm just making the dressing for the beet salad. So the juice 2 lemons. I'm going to add some Dijon.
Do you want a spoon?
Yes, please. I'm going to add some Dijon. I'm going to add a little bit of honey.
I remembered where my train of thought was.
So I'm going to add about 2
Tablespoons?
teaspoons.
Teaspoons?
I guess those are.
It's like a half a tablespoon.
Yeah, probably about a full tablespoon of Dijon in with my lemon.
My whole thought process, by the way, before I lose it again, is forgiveness.
There we go.
Yes. Because if you work with someone who you are also in a relationship with, you have to be able to move on and forgive. And that is one thing that Rob and I find, are really, really, really good at. It's like, you get it out, you talk about it, probably scream. Probably, with me, I'll probably cry. Let's be honest.
Listen, I make my wife cry.
Yeah, but not in a bad way.
No.
I just get really passionate about things. It's not like he's telling me anything that'll make me cry. I just get passionate about my way.
We're both very passionate.
Yes. And you need to be able to understand, okay, that's their point of view. This is my point of view. It may not ever become our point of view, and that is okay, and I forgive you. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the big thing about working together.
Yeah, is forgive and move forward. If you want things to work, you can't let the petty stuff or the business stuff get in the way of who you're with. Anyways,
on that note, Rob is
just adding a bit of honey, about a tablespoon or so, to the dressing. I'm going to mix it together and then add some olive oil so that it can bring it together and emulsify the dressing and then make it nice and creamy, so we can start building this lovely supper.
Sweet.
All right, so now that that's all mixed together, I'm going to add my olive oil. Olive oil is one of those things that's kind of subjective. You can add as little or as much as you would like. There is a point, though, where things will break with your dressing. So I kind of like to go in bits and pieces, add a bit, see where I'm at, add a bit more if I need to, try it, taste it, see how I like it, and go from there.
We're sneaking grapes while we're doing...
Sneaking grapes?
I mean, the beets.
I'm sneaking grapes too, and they're in my glass of wine.
Yes, that as well.
Okay, so I probably added about a 1/4 cup of oil there, and I'm just going to bring it together.
So usually for date nights, we do try to go all out and make it feel really special. So what we do like to do is set up the table. Tonight we didn't do that, but we do like to make it feel different than every other night that week. So setting up our table in the dining room with a tablecloth, nice setting, maybe some flowers, always good ideas. It's funny because for Valentine's Day, when we first started dating, what we would do is each year we would switch. One person would be in charge of the food one year, one person would be in charge of the food the next year. And it would be in because we had Aubrey and then we had Poppy. So this kind of started with that, I guess.
Yeah.
The whole date night in. And then Rob actually taught me how to play cards, because I played cards a bit when I was growing up, but I never really got into the games besides like war and fish and memory. So Rob taught me, was it rummy?
Yeah.
And so we ended up like becoming obsessed with playing rummy together. And in our old house in Halifax, we would play it almost every single night. And we had a deck that was covered, so even in the rain, we would make a really nice supper when Aubrey was asleep, because Poppy wasn't around yet.
Yeah.
And we would make a cocktail or open up a really good bottle of wine, and we would sit out on the patio and we would play cards because it would feel special.
Something I failed to mention, and where Katie's on the topic of it, in case you're wondering, this wine, it's a $25 price point, so it's kind of a bit more
Than we would
expensive.
usually, yeah.
I mean,
We try to keep everything around, I'd say $20.
20 max. I mean, you can find great bottles of wine out there for $16. You can find great bottles of wine
$12
for $12.
Yeah.
I mean, I went with this bottle of wine tonight based on tasting notes. I didn't mind spending the price point on it because it was for something special. This is a date night. I mean, if you're just going to have, a bottle of wine to have a bottle of wine on a Monday night because, you like to drink wine, and that maybe a $25 bottle of wine isn't something you go for every single night, or, I sound like we drink a lot, but, what I'm trying to say is I invested a bit more money into this bottle of wine because it was a special night, because Katie said, open up a nice bottle of wine. So, take a chance, spend the extra money on special occasions. But that being said, there's lots of wines out there for the $12, $15, $20 price point that are just as great.
Yeah, stay tuned, because we're going to be bringing so many different wines on so many different price points onto this from week to week. So maybe $25 is too expensive for you. If we're cooking something that also is really good with a red wine next week, we may showcase, one of our brands that are $12 that we can get at our own liquor store here, which is like amazing. But
speaking of which, I'm going to just quickly build
our salad
here, leave the dressing off until the end. Where we are serving it with carrots, it's going to be more of a kind of a side salad than a main dish, I guess.
And it's so simple to make.
I'm going to check on our carrots because I
They
hear them
smell good.
sizzling away.
Ugh. We need like a smellogram for you guys. And with salad, always make a little bit more than you're expecting, and just don't dress it till it's on a plate, because you can easily package this up and put it in the fridge for the following day.
So these carrots are almost done. I'm going to just add the honey now, and then we'll probably move into cooking the steak and enjoying this supper.
And playing rugby, maybe?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Or Netflix and chill. We just started watching, what is it called?
Yeah, okay, so Netflix and chill might have been taken over by Amazon Prime and chill.
It's true.
There are mixed reviews on Amazon Prime, but Katie and I have found a few shows already that we really enjoy.
American Gods, or what is it called?
Yeah,
Gods of America?
American Gods.
American Gods.
It's really weird, but
Very weird.
awesome. Really cool, different ideas. Pretty much as out there as you can get, though. But the one we're on right now, it was a little slow to start, but we're really enjoying it. It's called Sneaky Pete, and it has Giovanni Ribisi as the main. And
it's weird because like he is like always this character in
he seems to gravitate towards this particular character. But quick synopsis is he's in jail, he gets released, and he
takes on his
cellmate's identity. He's a
mob boss is like hunting for him.
Yeah, but he's an ex-con. He's a con man, so runs cons on rich people, and basically it's him trying to hide his true identity while developing a relationship with this family that is not his family.
Well, and it's funny because it's like the family, you find out, are in a type of a business. We're not going to give too much away, but they're in a type of a business that directly relates to ex-cons. And it is like, it's a slower series than you would expect from him, but at the same time, it pulls you in and it gets you hooked.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh crap. What's gonna happen next? Like, because it always has this little twist that you're like, oh my gosh, is that really gonna happen or is that not gonna happen? So anyways, stay tuned because we're gonna be talking about it probably next week too, unless we finish it. Oh, I think we almost are done it.
Yeah. Okay, so I took out our steak yesterday. I'm a big fan of buying the whole muscle, cutting them smaller, cutting the muscle down into steaks, into roasts. This last one that I got was a top sirloin.
I believe it was like $89, but you got 20 steaks.
Yeah, I ended up getting 20 some steaks. I packaged them in packages of 4 and froze them all. So I took these out yesterday. They've been thawing in the fridge. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut them down, cut them in half, just cut them down a little bit. So that they're more of a kind of pan sear kind of style steak more than anything. When it comes to meat, fat is good.
And I always buy the total opposite of what you're supposed to buy. So I've like really given up on buying meat for us as a family.
Fat and bone are where you're going to get your flavor. It's what's going to, steak in particular, it's what's going to soften your meat when you're cooking it. It's what's going to keep the meat moist. If you choose to marinate your meat, the fat is what holds that marinade. If you have a nice marbly steak. Okay, so while the pan is heating up, we're just going to show you what I'm talking about here. You want a really nice marble to your meat. Like I was saying, all this beautiful stuff here is where you're going to get all your flavor for if you're marinating, all your natural flavors if you just choose to cook it like we're about to cook it, and it's what keeps it nice and moist and not letting it dry out. So like I said, what I'm doing here is I'm going to cut them down into a bit of a smaller size just to be more manageable in the pan. The pan's getting nice and hot. I'm going to add some butter, and then these are going to go right in behind it so that we catch it before the butter really burns, but it's nice and hot to sear the outside of these steaks.
We love cooking with butter, and one of the great things about eating paleo is that I don't know if you guys know a ton about paleo, but the whole theory behind paleo is that our human bodies are supposed to actually get our energy from our fat. That's why our bodies store so much fat. And most animals run this way as well. But in nowadays society, our body has changed to burn carbs instead. So unfortunately, we're consuming way too many carbs, and then the fat isn't actually getting burnt off, and that's causing the obesity. So for us, paleo is all about switching your body into burning fat as your energy instead of carbs. That's why you don't eat like any carbs.
Yeah, it's basically switching it from a sugar burning metabolism to a fat burning metabolism, and then in turn taking your fat stores and using them for energy as opposed to taking your sugar stores and turning them into fat.
And we're not nutritionists and we're not specialists on paleo, but we do really enjoy eating similar to it, if not like 80%. So for us,
it's the one thing,
we know a lot about it.
Yeah, it's the one thing that we find we're the healthiest while doing.
Our guts feel the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just from our allergies and everything. So butter is full of fat. So the full fat, the better. Low fat sucks. Butter is full of fat, so it really helps us. You're supposed to get grass-fed butter. Grass-fed butter is pretty expensive.
It's expensive.
It's hard to find.
We try to be paleo
ish on a budget
while raising a family in Nova Scotia. So if that makes any sense to anybody out there, you try to you make things happen the way you can make things happen.
It's true. So I mean, we're not out there buying $10 blocks of like half this size butter, but we are using good butter, good quality butter. I guess we can do that. So here's like a behind the scenes take. We're going to show you guys this clip in a sec, but this is how vlogging goes.
So as you can see here, the steaks are cooking away. The butter is on the the butter is on the caramelized side of things, which is going to add a lot of flavor to that meat. You want to let these sit, depending on how you like your steaks cooked. You want to let these sit about 2.5 to 3 minutes per side. That will give you a nice medium rare cook. And then you want to put those and finish them off. I'm just going to grab these steaks off here because I think they are just about done. I don't know if people were keeping their timers going. I wasn't.
We like ours medium rare to rare. So, I mean, you add time for each one of those. Rob's pretty good at guessing what medium rare is. But yeah, I think I don't cook steak very often, but how do you judge if it's medium rare or rare?
So I've been cooking steaks for a while. I used to cook steaks professionally. At the end of the day, you really want to get comfortable with how you like your steaks by sight, but you also want to get comfortable by touch. I can tell you to go by time, but each steak varies in thickness. So a steak that's this thick versus a steak that's this thick is going to have a bit of a different time ratio to it when you're trying to cook a medium rare. Some people go by touch, by taking your finger here, and this is a medium rare. I don't know if you guys can see this.
Like the firmness, that's how a steak should feel.
Yeah, so that's a medium rare, that's a medium well, and then that's a well done. So basically that quick little touch, the difference in the firmness in this area of the hand by using the same fingers on that hand depicts the firmness of your steak for how well it's done.
See, and I always am the person who takes the fork and the knife and cuts through it. So, like for me, I'm really bad at cooking meat. Did you say those carrots are done?
Yeah, those carrots should be done.
Amazing. So these carrots, if you follow my blog, you probably know a little bit of a history, but my dad is, I guess you would call him a hobby veggie farmer. So he doesn't sell the vegetables to the general public, but he grows enough vegetables to last him all year long, and he has a root cellar in our basement and everything. I grew up that way. When I was born, we lived in BC, and we had a full-fledged farm where we grew our cattle, our sheep, our goats, everything, and our vegetables, and we literally lived off the land. And now that we live in Nova Scotia, my dad decided that the animal side of it was a little bit too difficult, so he just decided to really nurture his vegetables. So these carrots are from my father's veggie garden from last summer. And it's January, the end of January, and we are still eating them. And here's a picture. But to take a carrot, like I know it's small, but to take a carrot from a garden
Yeah.
And to take it from the grocery store, the flavor,
It's night and day.
night and day. So a vegetable carrot that you've grown in your own garden and then you store. I mean, you can tell I'm a farmer's daughter just by talking this way. But it's almost like the sugars are more active because they don't have, like my dad doesn't cook with any pesticides, any chemicals. Like he buys the cleanest of seeds for his carrots. So they're really sweet. They have like a sugar to them because they have been underground for longer. And sometimes my dad even likes to grow his carrots until there's been a frost, and then he'll take them out. So that cold snap in the soil brings those sugars out, and they become a lot sweeter for when he stores them in the winter, which then carries through the flavor even when they become older carrots. And he's tried so many different ways to store them. He's stored them in like wood chips because my grandpa owns a mill. So he stored them in the wood chips from my grandpa's mill. That helped a little bit. Now he pretty much just stores them in Ziploc bags. But they're really sweet and flavorful. How are they?
Perfect.
Amazing. And take that to a store-bought carrot, and with a store-bought carrot, you get a bit of a bitter and less of a sweet because of all the pesticides and who knows?
Who knows? There's just something to be said about
a homegrown carrot.
Well, just homegrown vegetables in general, but these carrots are unreal.
They are. And I mean, when you have a family and you have kids, I find the best way to get a child to eat vegetables is to grow the vegetable. Aubrey, for instance, is the worst for eating vegetables. Like, I don't even know a child who will be so bad at and picky at food. But Aubrey will eat carrots, and he will eat peas from the vine. He will eat beans from the vine. If you put him out there in the garden, he will try anything that you have growing. So it's really helped us in getting him to eat more of a variety.
Okay, so as things do around here, we change our minds and we think of different ways. And just looking at everything, I think that I'm gonna...
I need a refill.
Oh, well, yes, Katie needs a refill.
Obviously, I've been doing too much drinking and not enough cooking.
But I think I've decided to kind of combine all this and just make it a salad, a beet salad with steak on top.
With carrots.
Yeah, with the roasted carrots and the beets and the steak and the dressing. I think it's all going to go very nice together. So I'm just going to add these. I'm going to let those actually cool down just a little bit. I'm going to add some of the beets.
One thing I will mention about the steak, this is a lot of steak.
Oh yeah.
What we usually do is we only eat about half of that because that's a lot of red meat to eat at one go. We usually always take a digestive enzyme when we eat red meat as well, just to help with our whole system. But what we like to do is we like to cook this much and then we save half of it and we cook it up with eggs and steak.
Sometimes we use it for, we'll use it in the mornings for steak and eggs.
Or if we've had it with like a side dish or two the night before, we'll put it in with a salad the next night.
Yep.
It's all about bulk cooking when you're cooking. So like we said with the beets, cook more beets than you're going to use that night because then you can use them for the following night. Cook more steak than you're going to use that night because then you can use it for the following night, or you can use it for lunch. And I mean, meal planning for us is really hard, and I find we always want to do that bulk cook on a Sunday. But as parents, it's like so unrealistic to spend your entire Sunday in a kitchen cooking. And we have, of course, Sunday night supper with my parents, and this way we are able to have stuff ready in the fridge without spending an entire afternoon on a Sunday cooking and preparing.
So I'm just going to give this a bit of a shake, mix it together. So, dressed to taste. I know Katie said leave this undressed, but we've made it small enough. A little sample for myself. We've made it small enough that Katie and I will probably eat
All of it.
all of it. So, there we go. Salad is dressed. And
I need to add some goat cheese to that.
yeah, I'm going to add a bit of goat cheese.
So good. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped up for it too.
Right?
So, because we waited till the kids were in bed, it's currently 9 o'clock.
Now, a lot of times when we're not filming these date nights, what we would do is one of us would start cooking and the other one would put the kids to bed.
Yeah. So typically, yeah, what we do, either Katie or myself will, Poppy's pretty easy. We lay her down in the crib and she goes to sleep.
Which I should really do an update on that because I do have a video on my YouTube channel. If you take a look below, there is a video of my sleep training. We do believe in the cry it out. I know it's controversial. It worked for us. It may not work for everybody. But because of that, Poppy, we literally say goodnight, give her kisses, give her soother, which we're about to cut out, give her her favorite teddy bear, and we lay her in her bed.
And the funny thing is about all of this is that she almost looks at us like, get out of my room.
She does. She does.
She...
Give me my pig.
Yeah.
And
get out.
Skedaddle. Like, I'm ready. Like, she almost is like closing her eyes to go to sleep as soon as you put her in bed.
She's going to be that kid that is sleeping in, like, leave me alone, I need my rest, through and through.
And get out of my room.
And get out of my room.
Whereas Aubrey, on the other hand, still pretty much sleeps most nights with us, as hard as we've tried to get him into his own bed.
He creeps his way into our bed, usually around 3 in the morning.
Using the cry it out method, he was an amazing sleeper for the first, what do you say, like 3 years of his life?
Yeah, I would say...
It was until we moved into this house.
Up until moving into this house.
I mean, this house has its flaws, which can freak a kid out.
The heaters make noise and stuff like that, so
and
that's...
it wakes him up, and his room is really quiet, and it's on the street side. So we definitely... But he's afraid of noisemakers. So it's one of those things where you pick and choose your battles. But, yeah, I need to update that. But Poppy's super easy to fall asleep. You just put her in her crib, and you walk out. Aubrey is pretty easy, too. Like, he has school all day, and when you get him into bed... I sure can. He's pretty ready to fall asleep on his own.
He has his moments. Some nights he just does not want to go to bed. But that's like us. Some nights we don't want to go to bed.
If it's been a really exciting day, or I mean, he's a kid. If he's had too much sugar, or he's had too much of something that he doesn't usually have.
They've got a lot on their mind too. Just because they're kids doesn't mean that they don't have a mind going a million miles a minute.
And I find as they get older, it gets worse because they are more independent and they're thinking more about things and they're reflecting more about the day. Whereas Poppy's just like, that was fun. I watched Moana. It was good. Okay, see ya. Good night. Whereas Aubrey's like, well, you know, I told this girl I loved her today, and she did. Then she made me a blanket out of a piece of paper just because she didn't know how to tell me she loved me back. And now, like, what do I do about this? Like, what do I do? Okay, so Rob's shaving slices into this steak right now. We have amazing knives. I think one of the biggest things about kitchen utility things is that you need to constantly keep your knives sharp.
The reason 90% of things go wrong with a knife is because it's dull. The reason you tend to cut yourself is because it's dull. I've heard even a trick, actually, a popular YouTuber, cook, chef, owner of restaurants extraordinaire, Maddie Matheson, says that the reason you cry when you cut onions is because you don't have a sharp knife.
Really? Mm-hmm. I don't believe that. Mm-hmm. I cry no matter what I cut an onion. Mm-hmm. Rob has actually, my mom has never sharpened her knives ever. And Rob threatens to bring his own knife every time we go for Sunday night supper because Rob's always the one who's carving the turkey and cutting the roast or whatever we're having for dinner that night. It's on Rob. Rob's
little fat snacks for Zeus, who, by the way, has been under our feet the entire time.
Do you guys know Zeus? Here, hold on. Let me show you guys. Oh, wait. So this is our pup Zeus. This is his cave. He's been looking for snacks. I guess he doesn't like arugula very much.
You know, mind the messy floor behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's real life right here. But yeah, Zeus waits here.
Orange socks here. Oh yeah.
Those are soccer socks, everybody. Soccer socks. Anyway, Zeus waits here every time we cook. This is real life. This is what we deal with, and steak especially, right, Pup Pup?
Hey, want a piece?
I want a piece. Oh my gosh, you guys. So good. So all you did to the steak is put salt and pepper, correct?
I didn't do anything to this steak.
You didn't even put salt and pepper?
Now, typically, I would douse the steak in salt and pepper. The fattier the steak, typically the more salt you use because they tend to complement one another. But I actually left this just plain and let the butter do its thing tonight, which turned out very nice. I think that the salad will take the show with the flavor, so I didn't want to overdo things with seasoning the meat.
Awesome. So there you have it. We're going to plate it up. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to snap a photo so you guys can see what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And thank you for tuning into the first date night with the DeChellis.
Yeah. And if you like this and you want to see more, let us know. Make sure you comment. Click the subscribe button.
Yeah. Hit that subscribe.
There we go. I'm trying to talk with a mouthful of meat.
And hit that like and leave a comment on any recipes you'd love us to try out and show for you guys. Or if you have any questions for us, make sure you leave them in the comments as well. About anything, blogging, YouTubing, photography, anything you'd like us to talk about while we're doing this, 100% leave it in the comments below. Or email us. And the email will be below as well.
Yeah, find the email link in the description.
And on the blog, head there to the link. I'm going to post it below, and you can find the recipe and the full details of everything that
what we did tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Grocery list, all of that. So,
thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Should we do cheers?
Oh, well, yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.